So guys, I think I just watched the worst movie of my entire life. This was so bad, I can't even begin to explain it, but I'm gonna try. First, let me go shower so I can try to get rid of some of the shame and misery that I'm feeling right now from watching this film. Alright then, welcome back guys. Sorry about that. Sorry my hair looks so bad, but I accidentally left my comb at my dorm. So, I'm gonna look a little bit weird today with my hair. So welcome back to Ryan's Reviews. This has been 100 Films in 100 Days. Today I watched The China Salesman, starring Steven Seagal, Don-Hue Lee, or Lee Don-Hue. I think that's how you pronounce it, depending on what country you're from, and how you put the names in what order, and also Mike Tyson. So before I got in the shower, I said that this is possibly the worst film I've ever seen in my life. Now I'm going to back that up with some facts. I'm gonna make this review kind of quick because the Ireland-Scotland rugby match is on right now, and I kind of like to watch it. So the first thing that you notice about this film is the cover. On the cover you have, right here, Mr. Mike Tyson, Mr. Don-Hue Lee, and Monsieur Steven Seagal. Now, Steven Seagal's in two scenes in this movie. Steven Seagal's got third billing in this film. He is in one action scene and then he just shows up at a bar later on and he doesn't really do anything else. Now, you may call me a quote-unquote hater, but I hate Steven Seagal. He is one of the least talented and worst actors in the history of filmmaking. Now, say what you will about Mike Tyson and his, his criminal record, his acting ability, which there's little to none, and I will get to that, but I think Mike Tyson is one of, if not the most talented professional boxer in history. So let's hope that he is at least good at holding across a fight and making a action scene interesting. Not when he's fighting against Steven Seagal, he can't, because Steven Seagal is a fat, schlubby loser now, who is incapable of even moving his arms, really. I'm pretty sure they digitally added in the arm movements in this film. Mike Tyson looks like one of the weakest people on the face of the earth in this film because he is losing in a fight to Mr. Steven Seagal. The man who, if you do not know, was sent to Russia for a martial arts exhibition, which mostly consisted of Steven Seagal kind of moving around his arms a little bit and kind of moving his leg, and people just falling down, and Vladimir Putin clapping a bit. That's what that was. So now let's get back to the film. The worst film ever. This film has the worst acting I've ever seen in my life. First of all, you got Steven Seagal, who's an awful actor, and he can barely move his mouth, let alone his arms. He can barely get out of line. It's like if Sylvester Stallone had like 6 more strokes. And he's trying to be all like deep-voiced and brooding in this film, but he's just incapable of it. Mike Tyson plays this dude from some African tribe, North African tribe, where he like fights as like a warrior. He doesn't really explain it very much. Nothing's really explained in this movie. I don't really know what this film's about. Something about telecommunication and some company and espionage and some sort of war between 2 North African countries. I don't really get it. I wasn't really following it. It made no sense to me. I was just laughing hysterically at how awful this is. Mike Tyson's accent throughout this film is so inconsistent. Sometimes he sounds like a stereotypical African warlord. Sometimes he sounds like an American from Brooklyn. I think he's from Brooklyn, or maybe he's from Philadelphia. I don't even remember where I think he's from Philadelphia, or is that Evander Holyfield? Whatever. Sometimes he also sounds like he's trying to do like a Middle Eastern accent, like kind of North African, like Egyptian or something, and he fails at that as well. So he acts like an insane person throughout the whole film. Oh, and even though he is top billing in this film, so the first thing you probably notice is that he is on the center cover of the film. He gets top billing for this film, and here's the breakdown of his time in the film. First, he is in a scene where he fights against Steven Seagal and loses. Next, throughout the middle of the film, he just kind of shows up randomly. They just cut back to him sitting in a room holding a walkie-talkie every once in a while. Third, they capture him in a desert, but it obviously cuts from, he's never shown in the desert. It's always like a close-up of like his face, like on the ground or something, and then they cut back to the desert and it looks really bad and it is really poorly edited, and you obviously know that he was not actually in the desert. And then he turns out to be the main bad guy at the end, who turns against the original bad guy, who he was like a henchman for, and then he becomes the Machiavellian schemer of the whole thing. So you may be asking yourself, Ryan, if Mike Tyson isn't the main character, and Steven Seagal isn't the main character, then who's the main character of this film? Well, first I need to go into a little bit about this film. This is not an American film. This isn't a French film. This isn't an Indian film. This is not a British film. This is a Chinese film. This isn't even a Hong Kong film. This is a mainland Chinese film. I don't have too much information on it, but my theory is that this was funded by the Chinese government, which is why they were able to get high-profile people like this. People like this. Mike Tyson's still making a lot of money because he's one of the greatest boxers of all time. I'd assume he's making a good amount of money. And Steven Seagal is making like 20 films a year. So the fact that they got him to do this is pretty surprising as well. Now, while I was watching this film, I was saying that Lee Jong-hyo is one of the worst actors I've ever seen in my life, who plays the main character. Sorry, I just had to check to see the character's name. I forgot what it was. It's Yan Jiang. I probably pronounced that really wrong. I'm sorry to all my mainland Chinese friends whom I met in France. I do apologize. But I feel like that's not fair on him. He's probably a very good actor when he's speaking Mandarin. I assume that English is not his first language, and I'm going to give him a pass on that. And I have a theory also that this film was originally in Mandarin, but I can't tell for sure because some of the mouth movements, some of the dubbing is actually quite good, so it kind of lines up sometimes. You don't quite know if someone actually said that. Some dubbing is really bad, so I'm kind of torn between it. That maybe there were some scenes in Mandarin and some scenes in English, but sometimes seems like whenever Lee Jong-hyo is speaking English, it seems like it's him based on his mouth movements. So I'm not going to give him too much flack for that, but basically all the acting in this film was absolute garbage. Completely terrible. There was some Russian lady who was complete garbage. She was awful. She was so flat and uninteresting. Oh, overall, this film, even though it may seem like this may be an action-packed film, no. There's like 3 action scenes, and they're all so boring and so uninteresting, I can't get into it at all. Every single actor in this film is so bad, it makes me laugh so hard. There are these African dudes who, like, can't even speak. They can barely get words out. Like, these guys are probably good actors in their native tongues. Oh, there's all sorts of different people in this movie. So this movie takes place in some sort of North African country. I don't even remember. I didn't really explain anything. So it takes place in some North African country that's split between North and South. So I think it's kind of like the Sudan, and they're all Muslim. And there's one scene where Mike Tyson is supposed to be, he's like a Muslim, and they offer him alcohol like the bad guy does. And he's like, if you don't drink this alcohol, like, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, I must keep to my faith. And then, like, the bartender pisses in a glass and he's like, then drink this piss. And then that's how the fight scene starts. Oh, and then there's some, like, French African dudes who you can very much tell speak with a French accent. So they're definitely not actually African. But he's supposed to be, like, the president of this country. But he's very much obviously French. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the nationalism in this film. This film is super patriotic about China. This is a very much pro-China film, and about how the Chinese guy is the good guy and he's honorable and he does everything the right way, and all these other foreigners are evil and they just cheat and lie and steal. Now that's an okay premise or an okay message if you want to be nationalistic. I'm not saying that, like, inherently Chinese people are bad or inherently good. I'm just saying I think it's funny that it's such a thinly veiled nationalism. Like, they don't try to hide it at all. There's this one scene in the film where they're trying to travel from the northern part of the country to the southern, and there's like a whole bunch of terrorists and militia groups and stuff there, and they start getting shot at, and then the main character, played by Lee Dong-hyo, is trying to get a Chinese flag that he just so happened to have with him onto a flagpole so he can show it up. He holds it up, and then they stop shooting. The terrorists immediately stop shooting at them. They're obviously good because they hold up a Chinese flag. And then he drives by, and some more terrorists come by and hold up their AK-47s and start shooting in the air, and they're all freaked out. And then they start saying ni hao and other stuff in Mandarin. I just don't even know what to say about that. I laughed so hard when that happened. Like, that's the most obvious nationalistic thing ever. Oh, and it was in slow motion. Like, it was so heroic when he was holding up the Chinese flag. Oh, and then later on he has to climb up some, like, electrical tower thing, because it's all about phone lines. He works for some phone company. That's why he's called the China Salesman. He's a salesman for this telecom company, and he's from China. Pretty obvious. So when he's climbing up this electrical tower, or a cell phone tower, whatever, he brings up his Chinese flag because the Russian girl says it's his good luck charm, and he brings it up and he holds it up in slow motion. It's all tattered a little bit from the gunshots, and it's just holds on it for a second in slow motion, like, hell yeah, China, man. So not only was this film awful, it was also a financial bust in China. It had a budget of equivalent to USD, United States dollars, $20 million, and it had a total box office, $1.5 million. I'd like to give a list for you of some films that are god-awful, that have made more money than that. Number 1, Suicide Squad, my least favorite film of all time. This film, China Salesman, might trump Suicide Squad for my least favorite film of all time. Number 2, my second least favorite film of all time, Batman vs. Superman. Number 3, all 3 or all 4, I don't even know how many they have now, God's Not Dead film. Number 4, I think we're at 4, House of the Dead, Blood Rain. I think Blood Rain made more. I think so did Alone in the Dark, made more than 1.5 million USD. All made by Uwe Boll. the worst director of all time. Number 5, Jack and Jill by Adam Sandler, another one of my least favorite films. So in conclusion, this is the greatest film ever made. No, I'm just kidding, man. This is probably my second least favorite film of all time, behind Suicide Squad. I don't think anything could beat Suicide Squad for the pure rage and anger I feel for that film. I'm gonna give this a 0.5 out of 5. This is possibly the worst film I could have picked to start off this new chapter of my show. So I know you guys are so excited to hear what film I'm gonna watch tomorrow. I've gone through the stack of films that I picked out yesterday, and I think I'm actually gonna watch a good film tomorrow. It's kind of cheesy, it's kind of dated, but I'm excited for it. It's The Lost Boys. Now, I was going to show the DVD, but once again, like an idiot, I accidentally put the DVD for that film on the stack of DVDs that's holding up my camera right now. But I'm not going to show it off today. I'll show off the DVD case tomorrow when I watch it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell if you want. Make sure to check out my description. I have all sorts of cool people down there. My friend John, my friend Isaac, my friend Avant-Garde Criminal does all my thumbnails for me. He has some awesome art. Check out his Facebook page and give him a like. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.